Hello. So, I was asked, how did I get into photography? How did I start my business? And I figured, I've told this story so many times, and it's kind of it's a neat story. It's a fun story, and I enjoy telling it. And how cool would it be to just make a video, tell it in detail for you to experience and share? So, if you're watching this on YouTube, please stop and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can be notified of upcoming videos, and do me a favor, like the video. But let's get started. So I'm 32 now, and when I was 7 years old, I remember asking my parents if they would buy me a camera for my 8th birthday. And they looked at me and they said, "You're too young to have a camera. Like, what are you gonna do with a camera?" I insisted, and they bought me a camera. Granted, it was just a disposable camera. I had my 24, 25 photos on it, but I had so much fun with it. I was down pretty much 2 days later when we took the next trip to the store getting it developed because I had already used it all up, and I wanted another one. And that's where I kind of got bit by the photography bug. But I don't know, it's just, as long as I can remember, I've always had a fascination with capturing life in a moment. All the emotion, all the character, just always thought that photography is a neat thing. So then fast forward through high school, fast forward into adulthood. All through those years, any opportunity I got to either observe a professional photographer or spend time with a professional photographer, I was always picking his brain or her brain, always asking questions, wondering why they're doing this, why they're doing that. And anytime I got my hands on a camera, I never gave it back until they came and took it back. So I've just always enjoyed having a camera in my hand. And then in 2015, I had this idea, I have so much fun doing it, why not do it professionally? And I thought, well, I don't want to do it alone. Like, life is more fun when it's lived with a companion, lived with company, when there's that camaraderie. So I started asking people, hey, would you want to start a photography company? And no one was nearly as passionate as I was about this idea. So I got a couple, yeah, that'd be cool responses, but obviously no desire to actually go out and do it with me. So it was the summer of 2015 where I had recently had so many people come up to me and say, you should sell your photos, or you should do this professionally, you should just go for it. It was almost like they were reading my mind. As I was showing photos to people, they would be like, oh, you should put that up for sale. Well, I attended my brother's wedding, and I asked him, how much did you pay to hire your photographer for your wedding? Because I feel like I could have done the exact same job. And he reminded me of myself. How much did you pay him? He said, I paid him, I think it was $2,700, I don't remember. But I was like, wow, okay, cool. Mind is open. Well, so I'm talking with my mom, who's also a photographer. I'm talking with her the next day, and she said, I really enjoyed the photography and kind of had the idea I would have done a similar job. And I said, I had the same idea. She said, I wonder what he paid. I said, well, he told me 27. She goes, wow. And you could see that our wheels were turning, like, what's keeping us from doing this? And that idea stayed right there. That was July or June. I think it was July. Yeah, July. Fast forward about 6 weeks, and it's coming to the end of summer. I'm managing a beach service, so my season is about to be over. I'm wondering And I had pretty emotional summer. I'm heartbroken, kind of got invalidated, so to say. And thought, I need to make a change. And in the midst of this pondering, I went to the movies. I thought, I'm gonna go see a movie. And Hitman 47 was coming out, or it was out. It was in the theaters, and I was like, I want to go see that. So I went to go buy a ticket. They said, well, the next showing's in 30 minutes. Okay, cool. Missed the current one, so I'll go see that one. So I bought the ticket, and then I thought, well, there's a movie starting right now. It's called We Are Friends. I'll go watch that until Hitman starts. It had bad ratings. It was like 30% on the Rotten Tomatoes. And I walked in, sat down. I was the only one in the theater. And 30 minutes came and went. And an hour came and went. And I sat through the whole movie. When I walked out of that movie, I left so inspired. It was like I just went to the theater and I came back having watched a completely different movie and coming home with so much inspiration that I walked in my door, I grabbed a napkin off my kitchen table and a pen right there, and I just started writing down things that I'm passionate about, things that stood out to me from the movie, and I had my wheels turning. Well, then the next night I got called in to do a bartending shift for a friend who owned a high-end bar in the beach area, and I would pick up shifts for him. That's what I did when I wasn't down at the beaches. I bartended full time, and went in to go pick up a shift. And it's a high-end place, not a lot of traffic. Like, it's just good quality clients, but it's also hidden away. So, or at least it was. It's hidden away, so just foot traffic, just regulars, not a lot of tourism at all whatsoever. Maybe 1 in 100 people are tourists. And they were brought in by a local type deal. And this lady is sitting at the bar when I walk in. She has a cast on her arm. She's sitting at the bar sipping a cocktail. And I walk in, and I was working with Sean. And I said, what can I do? He's like, oh, you can do this. I started doing all the duties, and this lady's just sitting there at the bar watching me. And I'd been there maybe 15 minutes. It wasn't very long at all. I got everything done, so we're all set up for, like, I got there a little early, got all set up, so we're ready for our shift, we're ready for dinner. This lady leans over the bar and she goes, what's your name? I said, Joel. She said, it's nice to meet you. My name is Elizabeth. I said, oh, it's nice to meet you, Elizabeth. You enjoying your drink? She goes, yes. And I got a question for you. What are you doing here? And I looked at her and I went, what do you mean, what am I doing here? I work here. She goes, obviously. And what are you doing here? Now, mind you, I have had a lot on my mind the last couple of days, and just the night before, my wheels are turning with ideas of what to do next in life, like how to build a legacy and make a name for myself and go somewhere and do something worthwhile. And I was like, what do you mean, Elizabeth? Like, I'm not following. I work here, not really understanding the question. And she goes, and that was just me putting up a little bit of a buffer between us, because keep it superficial. I don't know how much she's had to drink or what she's getting at. But she goes, no, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, what are you doing here when you could be out utilizing your gifts, your skills, and your passions in a bigger way? And right there, she cut through the buffer, she cut through the wall, she cut through to my soul. I remember, I'll never forget the feeling I had. I stood there with the ice bucket in my hand. It was empty. And Sean's looking at me funny, like, what's happening? And I felt like I was translucent, like I was completely transparent to her. Like she had X-ray vision, and I was invisible except for my soul, and she was speaking directly to it. I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "You know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't have any business being here." And I started getting a little defensive. I was like, "What do you mean I don't have any business being here?" And she said, "You were meant for greater things." And I said, "Okay, that's not normal talk. And we just met. What do you mean I'm meant for greater things? You very much have my attention." And Sean's like, "Dude, is she a little crazy? Like, is everything okay?" Like, he's interjecting, and Elizabeth is just locking eyes with me. And I'm like, no, it's good. Like, I know it might seem weird. It's a little weird for me, but this needs to happen. Intermission. And we're back. I take care of the little Eddie bit. So, anyways, there I am. I'm sitting in the bar, or standing in the bar. Elizabeth is sitting on the other side of the counter. Sean is sitting there asking, "What is going on here?" I'm like, "Just hang on a minute." And Elizabeth goes, "So, I know you don't know me, but I just moved down here from up north, and I have bone cancer. Basically, my bones are deteriorating, and I have a couple more months to live." I'm like, "You just moved in here? Like, you just moved to town?" She goes, "Yes. I wanted to spend my last couple months here on the beach." And I thought, how did she find this place? So I asked, like, "What brought you in? Like, how'd you?" And she goes, "Oh, I just went for a walk. Went for a walk, and I found this place, and I wandered in. Here I am. I got here a little bit before you got here." I was like, "Really?" Because I wasn't even supposed to be here tonight. Like, I picked up a shift. She goes, "Pretty cool." Anyway, I've been a counselor for 20 years, and in my 20 years as a counselor, I've only said this to 2 other people besides you, and I'm getting ready to say it to you now. And I know, Joel, that you don't really know me, but I see you. And what I mean by that is, like, in 20 years of being a counselor, I've only met 2 other people who are present to, like, consciously present to things going on outside of what is visible. Like, very sensitive, but able to, like, move and understand and connect with people in a deeper way. And I see it in you. And I was like, "Really? That's so fascinating that you..." I resonate with that. I do. I don't. Sometimes I live outside of it just because it's too much, but I totally understand what you're saying. And that's when a light bulb kind of came on for me. And I was like, this is the second time I've heard this from a counselor. And the first guy called it the 4th dimension. And he talked about seeing or communicating or connecting in a 4th dimension. And so I'm sitting here listening to Elizabeth. She's like, "Yeah, I don't have much longer to live, and I don't know if I'll ever see you again, but you are meant for more than this, and you know it, and you're wrestling with that right now. And I don't have anything to lose by just being blunt with you. You need to follow the voice that you're hearing, and you need to do something. with that you need to take action. And I thought, well, now I just want to go home and like brainstorm, pen and paper, go, like, this is top priority. What, like, answering this question, finishing this conversation that I'm having in my head is top priority in life. So I finished out my shift. Of course, I worked my main job the next morning, and then as soon as I got off that job, I went for a run on the beach. And I'm not much of a runner, never have been. I've always been more of a cyclist, but I had the beach, and I went to a portion of the beach where no one else was. It was not inhabited. And I just started running, and I got about 5 miles into my run before the sun started setting. And as I'm running, I'm praying, and I'm asking for guidance and direction. And right about the time I ask, what is it that I should be doing? Like, what am I passionate about? That the sun just, like, that was the golden hour. That was the prime moment on that sunset. I really took notice of that sunset, and it was captivating. And my first thought as I saw it was, that is beautiful. I wish I had my camera. I wish I had my camera. That's what it is. What should I be doing? Photography. I stopped right there on the beach with the biggest grin on my face, and I felt light as a feather. I was running 5 miles, which normally would not have happened. I would have been done at mile 1, but I was running 5 miles because all my focus was on what was happening in my head, not on the soreness in my legs or muscles. But I stopped right there. I was like, all right, time to turn around. I don't have to run anymore. I know what I need to do. I turned around, I started running back, and on that whole 5 mile run back, I'm brainstorming names for a photography business. I'm like, what resonates with me? And I come up with name after name after name. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm just jogging down the beach, having a blast, knowing that I found what I want to do. And now it's all just having fun creating it. And I got back to my car, I drove home, walked in the house, and I pulled out a pen, paper, and I wrote down the list of 20 names that I came up with. And then I called my sister and brother-in-law, and I said, hey guys, you've got the most experience out of the closest people to me with hiring a photographer, or you were one of the most recent people. I'd already talked to my brother at the wedding, but I hadn't talked to them. And so I was like, hey, just question. If you were going to hire a photographer, I'm going to read you a list of names, and I want you to tell me, which photographer would you hire? And I go through the names, and the fourth one down was Fourth Dimension Photography. And I got through the list, but both Olivia and Eric were like 100% Fourth Dimension Photography. Why, who's that? I was like, all right, awesome, thanks. That's the one that I was hooked on too. And the reason that I'm hooked on it is because as I was running back down the beach, a big thought came up for me. And that was, okay, so I had 2 different counselors talk to me about noticing me in the fourth dimension. And whenever I do take photos, it's not the say cheese, or like, if I say that, it's to be silly, and I'm not really taking a photo that I want. It's just to get you to loosen up, lighten up, move around, show me your teeth. And I just noticed that as I was doing photography, as I was walking around capturing life, I was capturing it. If if I took the time, I was capturing it in the way that I saw it, which, to further describe that, I can think of two very specific situations where I took the picture and I lowered the camera and I said, "What were you thinking about?" And then the individual tells me what they were thinking about. And I show them the picture. I go, "I know." And they see the photo and like, I mean, it's all over that, like all over the photo. Like, how could you? Yes, accurate depiction of and I don't know, it might sound silly, but I have that all. I have it more often than I ever hear about other people having it. And I know the two counselors kind of singled me out, saying that it's not common, but I personally believe it is. I think we all have the capacity and the capability, but it's like a muscle, and not everyone exercises it. And I exercise it all the time. And I think that's why I generally connect well with people. But I digress. From that to say that it was at that point that I was just full of joy, full of excitement. I knew what I wanted to do. I had a name, I had a story, and I went to communicate this to my mother, who was flying back from Australia at that exact time. She was over there for 3 weeks. I knew she was landing in LA any minute. So I sent her a text and I said, I've got an exciting story for you. And I sent it, and then I went to bed. And the next morning I woke up and she said, "Hey, just landed, got in late. I also have a cool story for you, and I can't wait to hear yours." And so when we finally got on the phone, she's like, "All right, tell me your story. I can't wait to hear it." So I tell her my story. A little bit shorter than the version you're hearing now, but I tell her my story, and she goes, "That's perfect. Because at the exact same time that was happening to you, let me tell you what happened to me. As you know, I was in Australia for 3 weeks, teaching, touring, and speaking. And my last day, I figured, I don't have any work. I've worked for 3 weeks. I want to take a vacation day and just walk around Sydney and capture Sydney with my camera." So she put her headphones in and she takes her camera and she's just enjoying herself in downtown Sydney. And while she's taken a photograph of a tree in front of a church right there in the middle of downtown, old, rustic, gnarly looking, just really cool, she gets a tap on the shoulder. She turns around, this guy goes, "Excuse me, ma'am, I couldn't help but notice that you have a camera." I felt inclined to walk over and ask, "Are you a photographer?" And she said, "Yeah, why?" And he said, "Well, my wife and I are getting married in 6 months, and we've already exhausted a long list of potential photographers, and we just haven't settled on one yet. And I saw you, and I felt a tug at my heart to come over and ask if that's something that you do. Do you shoot weddings?" And she said, "Well, do you have a card?" He said, "Yeah." She goes, "Great. Well, I don't have any cards on me, and I'm leaving tomorrow, but let's connect because I feel like we can make this happen for you." And he gave her a card. She comes home, she gives me this card, and she goes, "We need to start a photography business. If nothing else, at least to fly to Australia and photograph a wedding. How cool would it be to just fly to Australia to photograph a wedding, and our first wedding at that?" I'm lit up because I'm like, are you kidding me? This is adding gas to the bonfire. I am now even more motivated because ever since I was a kid, alongside loving photography, I've always been fascinated with the great outdoors and the great outback. Ever since watching Crocodile Dundee and the Great Steve Irwin, I have always wanted to go to Australia. And So I was like, well, this is my opportunity. And I've always missed opportunities in the past because flights are too expensive, and I've never had $2,000 just to go get there, let alone all the costs of being there. And so I'm like, this is the opportunity to go for free. What? Totally worth it. Let's go. So my mom and I were just thrilled. And as soon as we both got back into Greenville, South Carolina, we got to work creating a website, logo, lining up work to start building a portfolio, branding, social media, all the things, just rolling out full force, and just offering free shoots to whoever, and like taking courses on how to grow your business, how to scale your business, and friends, family, people from church, colleagues, anybody, like free shoot. And then as those started coming in, we had some really cool ones. Then people were like, hey, could you do Christmas cards for us? Hey, could you do some graduation photos? Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, oh, you need some photos of this and that. And yeah, how much do you charge? I don't know, $40, $50, $25, $75. I don't know, what do you want to give me? Like, what's it worth to you? And I had no idea how to price myself. And a couple of months later, I got the opportunity, or I guess 2 months in, I got the opportunity to do a product shoot. And I basically brokeraged the deal to be that the money that I made on that shoot was, it allowed me to upgrade my camera to something a little bit more professional. And then I was off. I was excited, I was ready to go. And meanwhile, in the background of all this, I am hunting down Linux on Facebook and email and phone and everything, but he won't get back to me. Lennox is the guy in Sydney who's getting married. So I'm like, well, let me find him on Facebook. He's engaged to Kara. Let me friend request her. Let me send her a message. Let me introduce myself. Let's try her. So she gets right back to me. She's like, oh, hey, Joel. Like, I don't know, it was written, but I'm sure it sounded something like that, with the Aussie accent. And she's like, hey, so I got a question. As you know, there's like, I'm white and Linux is black, and there's a skin tone contrast, and apparently other photographers here are saying that that's problematic, and they're gonna either, like, they're not comfortable with it, or is that a problem? Like, do you have experience with interracial families or interracial couples? And I lit up all over again when I read that message on Facebook, because do I have experience? I was like, yes, I have experience. I come from an interracial family. I have dated people from different cultures. My friends are from different cultures. I love diversity when it comes to people. Absolutely love it. And of course, I've carried my camera around with me for years and captured a good bit of it. And then coincidentally, the 2 shoots that I had done that week were for interracial couples. So I sent her 30 or so different example photos. And she goes, you're hired. How much are tickets? So I booked my ticket. First gig was in Australia. I flew over with my mom. We booked the gig to go to Australia, land in Sydney, go up to Terry Hills, and about 12 hours after landing, shoot our very first wedding. And it has been by far my favorite wedding that I've shot. Not only because of the story that just led up to it, but because I was jet lagged. I was in a completely different time zone, so when I was waking up to go shoot the video or the photos, it was about the same time that I would normally go to bed. So I'm all out of whack and running on pure joy, energy, excitement from just the possibility of being there. And also a lot of coffee. A lot of coffee was involved. But that wedding ended up being 12 hours long and just super cool because Lennox and his family is Ghanaian. So his whole side of the family was outfitted in Ghanaian garb and wardrobe, and everybody looked beautiful. And so there was this intercultural element to the event, like the beating of the drums and the dancing and everything for some of the parts in the reception. Super cool. So I got to capture that, and I was just living on cloud 9 capturing that. And when I got back to the hotel at the end of the day, I was beat. I was so glad that I wore flip-flops. Hashtag aloha anywhere. I took my olakais and I totally wore them for that first wedding and scrapped the dress shoes because I needed to travel in comfort. And when I got back and dumped my memory cards onto my computer, I had taken over 6,000 photos that day. And I was so excited to go through them and edit them. And I would say that is how I started my photography company. Because right after that, I'm a professional, I'm international. Here's my first real portfolio with hundreds of photos in it. Let's go. And that is how Fourth Dimension Photography got started. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. And if you did enjoy this, I understand it might be a little too slow for some people, but if you did enjoy this, definitely hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified, because I am often told that I need to write a book. And writing a book takes a long time, in my mind at least. That's what I say. So I have an idea to share stories in video format versus writing a book. But I don't want to take the time to do all that if there's no audience for it. So if you're interested, and believe me, I could keep you busy for days with entertaining stories and life lessons and overall education, I guess, from the hard knocks life. But if you're interested in that, hit the bell, hit the subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Wait, talk about stories. You see this? This came from Korea. Really cool story about this. If you'd like to hear it, leave a comment.